All right, cool. Starting in, I was going to show a video, but obviously the laptop doesn't cooperate with showing that. How's everyone doing? Good party? Yeah. How many of you actually went to the party? Oh, sweet. Everybody did, so cool. How long did you stay there for? What's that? They kicked you out. All right. Cool. So this is a two-part session. The first part, I'll talk about planning, and then the second part, Ari is going to join me, who's just up there, who's on the stage, to talk about a little bit more on what happens behind the scenes on the upgrade. So, so my name's Chan. I work for a company in New Zealand, so I came all the way from New Zealand. This is like the fourth or the fifth time I'm speaking in London. So yeah, I always try to come and speak at this conference because I like it. We actually had the New Zealand SharePoint conference happening the same week, so I kind of chose to come here rather than go to that one. So yeah, so I've been doing SharePoint for a while. How many of you have actually worked with 2001 version? Yeah, 2003, 7, yeah, 2010, everybody has, right? And how many of you actually done upgrades from 2001, 2003, 2010? Pretty painful, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So I've got all that behind me. So and we've got Ari, who's sitting up here. Ari's going to join us in the second part. So the part one is about kind of understanding requirements for upgrade, where you're at, what do you need to do, what's the kind of the planning steps, the key planning steps you need to think about for your upgrade. And then I'm going to show how to test a content database for upgrade readiness. The point of this demo is to show you what doesn't work, not to show you what works. I thought that'll be much more helpful for people to know what doesn't work, because the things that work will just work. So I'll show you some of the typical errors you would get with a content DB that's been, so just say it's come over from a couple of versions of SharePoint, right? And also give you some pointers to what you can do to fix some of the errors and so forth. Part two is about site collection upgrade, customization, and I'll talk about a little bit about how do you upgrade your service apps. Yeah. Just to get a feel, in the audience, how many of you are actually IT pros, as in work in servers, build SharePoint servers, and so forth? Yeah. Project managers, business analysts, yeah. So I'm trying to kind of blend this session into where I will give you enough information around the planning side of things as well as information on the technical side of things. So if you've got any questions that I don't cover, please feel free to come after the session and talk to me, and I'm happy to talk about that. So requirements. So the first and foremost thing is that if you are in 2007 still, in order to get to 2013, you have to go to 2010. So 2007, so the path is if you go 2007, you need to go to 2010. Anybody in 2007 at this point and considering 2010? Yeah. So you got to kind of need to go 2010 and then 2013. The good thing is if you got, well, there's nothing good. You have to do the work, to be honest. And again, third-party tools are available if you want to kind of fast-track your migration, but there's a bunch of vendors down there in the hall. You can go talk to them. But make sure you do your homework. You'll have to do some manual stuff anyway, regardless whether you choose a tool or not. Data storage, I'm going to touch on that because this is a really important point around upgrades. Make sure that you understand what your current storage capacity is. With upgrade, you're going to at least triple your data requirements to be able to do a proper upgrade. Because when an upgrade runs, it balances it out, and so you'd find that suddenly, even if your database is, say, content database is about 10 gig, it'll triple its size before the upgrade is finished. So just be aware of those things so that kind of happens. Because you've got to think about logs and all the rest of it. So you will need new hardware. That's not to say what you have existing might work. So again, it depends on your situation. Just make sure you do your homework around what your capacity requirements are for 2010 and also 2013. So just you will need more hardware. Operating system support, 2008 R2 SP1, plus whatever updates that is available. Server 2012 is supported, SQL Server 2012, so Sharp Service Pack 1 for the kind of the business intelligence side of things if you are using the BI tools in the SharePoint stack. So 2008 R2 SQL is also supported. IE7 is not supported, so if you are an organization who has a kind of a standard browser and you need to upgrade the browser, or you've got a SharePoint project for 2013, you've got to consider if you got IE7 that you need to actually upgrade your desktops as well. So as part of your planning process, those are the kind of things you need to be aware of as you go through that planning process. So how do you go through the upgrade process? So first of all, you got to figure out what you got today, the size of your content databases, lists, libraries, applications that you're using, what service apps are being configured in a certain way. So essentially, you're going to kind of need to go through your existing farm and get a good audit of what you currently got. And you can use tools for this. You can use PowerShell to kind of query and figure out what you've got. So there's two sides to the planning, obviously. There's the infrastructure side of things, where you need to get capable hardware, look at your business requirements, and then match them up to what you're going to be deploying and plan that out. And then is it actually time to go in the cloud? Use Office 365, for example. So your investment for infrastructure, obviously, then is considerably less. So you can consider, well, we've got these 3 SharePoint farms. Do we actually need to keep these 3? Can we offload some of the stuff into the cloud and use the cloud as a way of getting your project up and away? Again, when you're doing an upgrade into the cloud, you're essentially relying on third-party tools to do your upgrade, or you can, if you're going to be using dedicated, you can get your content databases to Microsoft and they'll do the upgrade for you, but that's a whole different story. So the kind of the audit that you want to ensure you got, obviously, your number of servers, the accounts you use. So who went to Ben Curry's session on building a farm yesterday? Yeah, so you would have kind of touched on what you need to do to get 2013 farm up and running, make sure that you've got all those requirements thought out very well. There's a lot of things in 2013, like the workflow manager and the app store that you need to pre-configure before you do an upgrade, if you are going to use apps and so forth. So all of these things are really important for you to understand how is everything. So if you walk into a client, or you are the client, or you are planning the upgrade, you need to understand exactly where you are at today to plan out your process to get to 2013. So in terms of upgrade, what's supported? So the one thing that I really commend Microsoft on doing this time is stopping the in-place migration scenario. So you can't do in-place migration. So you have to build a brand new farm and then migrate across. So you can't just put the 2013 CD and go next on your existing farm, which is a really good thing, because you'll have to kind of think about what your future requirements are and then build your farms from scratch and then start migrating stuff, which also gives you the opportunity to kind of have the farms running parallel, do some tests around what you're doing, and then go to that. From a service database point of view, from a database point of view, these are the databases that you can upgrade. So the content database, obviously, BCS, or business data connectivity, managed metadata, performance point, the secure store, search, and the user profile. So the third session in this room, Neil is going to talk about upgrading search. I recommend that if you are doing the upgrade, please go to see that session. He'll talk a lot about how to do service app upgrades properly. So yeah, so just bear in mind that these are the ones that you can upgrade. The rest of the stuff you'll create as part of your farm anyway. So this is what I call a simple view of an upgrade to just get content across, right? So if you've got a very standard SharePoint deployment that has been used just out of the box, and you want to upgrade, it's pretty straightforward. You can essentially back up the content database from SQL Server, restore it to the target SQL Server that you're using in a new farm, run test SP content database, the PowerShell command against the web application that you're going to be using on that environment to get an audit of whether you can upgrade or not. And you can look at that, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you look at the errors that you get. And usually, if it's using standard templates that come out of the box, the upgrade is pretty straightforward. The only thing you need to account for there is the UI change. Even that you can manage, because there's quite some nifty things with the upgrade that you can offset that for later on. So the other big question is, obviously, if you've got quite a large deployment and quite a large user base, you want to be able to minimize business downtime, obviously. If you're upgrading your team size and what have you, and users are actively using it, how do I get it up and running? So again, depends on your size of the content databases and everything, and how you go about that. Obviously, you need to do testing on how long it's going to take. There's no kind of easy formula, say, oh, that content database is going to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. You need to kind of do a real world with real data test upgrade a couple of times. I was working with a client to kind of come up with the plan, and one of the things we did first up was let's just bring up some virtual VMs with 2013, put the content in, and see how long it's going to take. So that way, you can get a log of issues that you've got and work through them until you're satisfied. Yes, we can tell the business this is what's going to happen. There's going to be some cosmetic changes that will need to be done by the site owners. We are okay with it, and go ahead. Again, it's another thing that as a project manager or a project planner, you need to work with the business to understand what the priorities are and then go on according to that. Another key thing I want to highlight is the end user training. It's quite important because obviously UI changes are there. So end of the day, it's the end users who are going to use what's been upgraded. So make sure that you allocate enough time and budget and what have you for planning, training, and so forth. So a lot of times you might want to think, well, we've actually got this whole money invested in our current infrastructure. We don't necessarily want to build a brand new farm. So in that scenario, well, you'll have to kind of think about, because the specifications for 2013 is quite different from 2010. So the minimum typically for a production farm in 2010 was 8 gig of RAM. In real world, you need at least 16 gig on a server. So you can run your upgrades depending on your size and complexity using 8 gig, but you want more grunt for 2013 in general. So you need to kind of prioritize. So build VM clones and do your testing, and off you go. So kind of the overall high-level process. There's a lot of information on TechNet, and there's some really good diagrams that you should download and have a look at, which goes through quite detail on what you need to do. Install software however you want it. I mean, if you're doing a trial upgrade, all you would need is just the bare minimum you need to get up and running. So 3 VMs or whatever, however you do that. And then you configure your service applications. The key thing to understand is that you do the minimum service apps you need. If you want to bring over your service app databases as well, you upgrade your service apps first, and then you do your content databases second, right? So when you start your test runs, so to speak, you'll get error logs or the logs of what is actually wrong in doing the upgrade, and they get typically stored in that that URL. But you can change that to a much more easily accessible place. and then you start attaching the databases to production SQL environment, and then you start running mount SP containers. So the key thing to know is when you actually do the test content database against the URL, it's not doing the upgrade, it's just doing a dump of saying, here's the things that you need to worry about, here's the error log, and then you start mounting, essentially running the upgrade sequence against the schema, and then the database schema is updated. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't actually do the actual upgrade. The upgrade of the site collections comes as a second step, which Ari will go through and talk about. I might actually jump into my VM to show how that process works. So the key message is that upgrades are 80% of it is planning, understanding where you're at, and then the 20% of actually doing work. But from that, the 20% might actually cost you more than the 80% of the planning. So just bear that in mind. So testing your upgrades, make sure you use real data. Don't, so you need to kind of, for this exercise, you need to make sure that you copy all of your databases that you want to test. So essentially, you're building a replica of your production farm. So that's why I said you got to triple your data storage requirements. Because if you got like a terabyte of content, then you need to have about 3 or 4 terabytes until your upgrade process is finished for that tool to be tested. Test the migration of content, get content owners involved so that they can verify, yeah, things are coming through, they look the same, all the rest of it. Keep a log of the issues so that you can prioritize on the fixes that you need to do. Some of them might be cosmetic and think, oh yeah, that doesn't matter, this web part doesn't work over here, we just put a new web part in, it all works. So when you're complete, delete the databases and migrate again, so you keep repeating and rinsing it, rinse and repeat until you've got that errors out of the way so you can go ahead. So on actual upgrade point of view, you got to kind of, once you've got your farm up and ready, then you need to configure everything you had in your 2010 farm exactly the same. So things like alternate access mappings, manage paths, what your quota templates were according to your governance plans and so forth for sites and site collections and so forth. All these things needs to be brought over and then applied. So it's kind of having the same operational levels as you had in your previous farm. With that, I'm just going to jump into my demo machine just to show you that process, and then we'll talk about a little bit about what is going on over here, which Ari will probably talk a little bit more in detail. So what I've got here is a SharePoint 2013 VM. It's pretty, there's nothing there really. There's a web application that I've created. There's no content database attached. So I've got what I'm going to do now is using PowerShell, I'm going to test this content database called WSS Content IT Site. So this content database contains a whole bunch of sites and site collections, and we're going to do some tests against it to see what's actually wrong with it, or can we actually upgrade this database. So I've got this script there, well, the PowerShell script, which says test SP content database, name of the database, the web application that I'm testing against, which I want to upgrade to, and I'm going to run this command. So it's just gone and outputted a whole bunch of stuff. So how do you look at it? So do you want to, because it outputs a screen, obviously it's not really readable because you're losing half the stuff, right? So what you can do is just pop it up into a text file. And that's much more, obviously, going to be valuable for you, so you can have a look at them. So here's the file that gets outputted. So it will tell you what the errors are. And so you can go through and find out, okay, so there's first one says missing site definition. So there's, I told you this is not going to work because I purposely wanted to show you what there is. Right? So the first one says there's 2 sites in the database which have reference to missing site definitions. So we need to go find those site definitions and install them on the 2013 farm for them to be able to work. So the good thing with 2013 is that you have the 14 hive and the 15 hive. You know what the 14 and the 15 hive are? That's where all the templates and everything live, right? It's actually installed at the same time. So you can run the sites in 14 mode until you actually commit to a 15 upgrade, right? So for things to work, so one of the key things you got to look out for is this one here, which says upgrade blocking false. If you get in any of those messages that upgrade blocking is true, if you do commit the upgrade, the database won't get upgraded later out. So as long as that's false, you can kind of run the upgrade. Things are not going to work. Things will not look nice. But the schema will still get upgraded, right? So you can fix those things post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go actually run the upgrade because I want to show what actually happens. And this is going to take a little while. Then I can talk a little bit more about, while the upgrade's running in the background, I'll talk a little bit more about what these things made. So I've got stuff to talk about. Anyway, I'll just run the upgrade. So the next one we do is we go, where's the script I prepared earlier? So so as you can see in the web application, there's actually no content database. I created the web app and then removed the database that gets created. Now what I'm going to do is attach or mount the 2010 one into here to run the upgrade process. And here we go. It's going to start a little counter. It'll show the progress as it goes through. There you go. It's doing its thing. So let it do its thing. I'm going to switch back to the slide deck because it'll take a while. Cool. So I talked about the 14 and 15 hive on the web source. So essentially what it allows you to do is get it upgraded. The UI will remain in 14 mode until you commit to fixing all the issues that you've got, and then turning on the new UI. So another thing that you got to watch out for is the claims mode. So Microsoft in 2010 said we can switch application. Well, you can either choose claims mode or you can choose classic Windows mode. And then they put some guidance saying claims is the preferred. In 2013, claims is the default, but you can create classic mode applications because there are certain things that will not work in claims, such as project web access and Exchange server integration. Doesn't work in claims mode. So the claims upgrade is, what I want to point out is that if you've got applications that have been built using claims mode, that is claims aware or has a claims component to it, you got to kind of treat it as a separate project to upgrade that application before you start doing the upgrade. If it's just a web application that's been created in claims mode, you can do the server-side scripting on the 2010 farm first. So you can convert your web app into claims mode, migrate your users to claims users, and then attach the database. If you don't do it, it's actually automatically done anyway, provided that the target web application that you're upgrading to is in claims mode. Make sense? And it's one way, so you can't go from claims to classic. So if you go to claims, you are in claims, you can't revert back to classic unless you, yeah, sorry.
Say that the users are actually automatically updated to the claims users when you attach the issue.
Yeah.
You don't have to run the scripts to migrate
No.
go with a native
Correct.
method.
Correct. So the question was, if you didn't upgrade them, if you didn't run the script in 2010 to convert the users to claims mode, if you attach the DB to claims, to a claims-based web application, does it migrate the users? The answer is yes.
Let's say that we have packaged our AD in some ADFS, and we would maybe like to migrate from AD to claims, but with token provider,
Okay.
or from claims using MTLN to claims coming from ADFS. Can this logic help us somehow in that
No.
scenario?
That's a separate project itself. Is
What are the challenges to upgrade from Classic to Claims? Because you're mentioning here that's a separate project. So what would be the challenges to look out for?
I mean, it depends on your application. So whether you got like third-party federation, just like you pointed out, if you got some custom like ADFS and so forth, that can be quite a massive project. I mean, it depends on what your complexity is. But if it's just that you created your SharePoint web application in claims mode, and that's all you've done, then you don't need to do much apart from doing this bit. Yeah. So that's the kind of the script. Obviously, you get access to this, and it's actually on TechNet as well. That's the, if you want to do it in the 2010 farm, that's how you do it using PowerShell. So let's go and have a look how far it's gone. Yeah, it's only 30%. So it's doing its thing. I trust it'll work. Or actually it won't work, because that's the point of this demo. So the, yeah, essentially that was the kind of the demo that I'm showing. The steps involved in the demo, so that you got a reference point if you want to test it out. So you create a web app in 2013, delete the default DB that you get created when you create a web app, set the source DB in the 2010 farm to read-only. Before you detach it from SQL, make sure it's read-only, and then back up the database, bring it over to the new SQL box, restore it, and test the upgrade process, which I showed you how to do, and then output it to a text file, and then start reviewing the log files, and then run the mount SP content database. And that is the point where the DB is updated, but not the site collection. So if you browse to the sites, it'll still be in 14 mode. And when you want to force the site collections to be upgraded, you can run this command, and all of the site collections will be updated to the new UI. However, you don't want to necessarily do this right away. As part of your planning process, what you want to do is to give the power to the site collection administrator so that they can prioritize how they upgrade their site collections based on training, all the rest of it, right? So you can get your upgrades done. It's running, and people are still using 2013 features, 2010 features. But in order to get the 2013 features and your users trained and so forth, then you can start doing the upgrades then per site collection. Oh yeah, it says switch to demo. Cool. So yeah, I was expecting that. It's errored out. So let's go and have a look at the error log. So as you can see that my error log is in ESP logs/ULS because I set the logging location in my environment to be that instead of the kind of the standard one. So you can quickly access that. So let's go and have a look at the upgrade log. So that's kind of like what the upgrade file looks like, and you can see at the end of it and say session failed, 272 warnings encountered. And it'll say look for the issues by searching error and warning strings in this log. What you can do is import this into, you can change this to .csv, import it into Excel, and then you can sort and filter and all the rest of it. Yeah.
These files in things like UNS because it's still the same structure.
Don't know actually. Sorry, don't know the answer to that one. Yeah. Yeah. But what I typically do is I just turn it to CSV and then import it to Excel, then I can filter and sort and all the rest of it. Yeah. And I'm pretty, you could probably point ULS to it. I don't know, I haven't done it. Okay, so we've done the upgrade. So let's refresh this. Come on. Application manglement. I apologize, it's a little bit slow, and that's the reason for it. It's obviously done a very, very memory-intensive task in the background, so it's just kind of releasing memory, because SQL and everything just goes bonkers when you're running upgrade. Anyway, while it's doing its thing, I'll switch back to the deck. Oops. So we talked about the upgrade output. The reason I got screenshots is just in case that didn't work. So the typical errors that you get, legacy UI detected. You get that if you come from 2007, from 2010, 2007 to 2010. So that database, I've actually got a couple of issues because I upgraded that from 2007 to 2010 into 2013. So legacy UI detector essentially will tell you that the site's UI hasn't been updated post a 2007 to 2010 upgrade, and the UI is still in 2007 mode. So, oh well, you can't really do much about it apart from forcing it to be re-ghosted or reverted to site definition. Missing features, so you've got to look for all of your WSPs and features and so forth and make sure that they are deployed. Missing setup file, that's a kind of a bit of a red herring sometimes. You can still do the upgrade, but things will work. Missing assembly, obviously there's an assembly missing that's been referenced, and configuration usually is related to claims mode or something along those lines. So the key thing is, if upgrade blocking is false, like I just showed you, you can still do the upgrade for a test anyway. And I'll show you what actually the sites will look like once you got that. So once the issues have been done, you can do it to actually do the upgrade. And that's what happens in the background. It is very proc memory intensive, and this is like, it just suddenly started and they just went up there. And this is while me doing on a standard laptop, but even when you're doing it in a real world, SQL memory and everything, and disk writes, reads goes up. Your web front end, so also, or the app server where you run the command goes up as well. So just make sure you've got enough memory capacity and all the rest of it available. And that's what I showed. Cool. Let's go and back into the demo land. So I'm going to go to upgrade and migration and click on this link called review database status and wait for it to do its thing, and bang, it's there. So you can see that I've connected that WSS container IT site and it says database is up to date, but some sites are not completely upgraded. Right? So that means the schemas have been updated to 2013, but the site collection hasn't been updated yet. So let's go and browse to that and see what actually happens, yeah? And again, you can also do this one here, check upgrade status, which will say, give all that information to you. And also gives you the number of errors and the warnings that, that the process encountered. So Open up that one. I do need to do one thing. Can somebody tell what I need to do to actually access the site? Because I bought it over from somewhere else.
Security provisions.
Yeah, correct. So you got to change your site collection administrators. So one of the things that it'll got you is like, I can't access the site. What's going on? It's not the my sites. We got to go. I apologize for things being slow. Unfortunately, SharePoint. There you go. So that's the size. So you can see that I've got 3 site collections in there. And the top level, so I'm actually going to go change that and make sure that I'm a site collection administrator on that site. So that's not correct. So I need SP13 setup. And let's just close that and come back. So while it's doing that, I'm going to also do a, I thought I'd do it, or maybe I won't do it. I'm going to do another one. I've got another content database, which is actually not customized. It's just a standard bunch of site collections from 2010. And I'll show what happens when you do a test like that. First thing I'm going to do is just basically attach that database to SQL. Add. That's the one that I want. So this is a very small intranet kind of site that's been just built using out-of-the-box features. Okay. So that database is there in SQL. So all I've done is backed up the one from 2010, brought it over to SQL. So there you go. So that's the one that we just upgraded. Right? Doesn't look any different from 2010, right? So it's just come across. But, however, there's some issues underneath here. So, and you get the this little top bar here, which will say, do you want to start the process to upgrade and so forth. I know there's a projects area in here, which will show some of the errors that you typically get. Come on.
Why it's actually SharePoint 15 or it's 2013?
What's that? Oh, what happened to?
Why it's SharePoint 15 there when it's 2013? This is shown to the users, right?
Yeah. Well, cycle track.
Yeah, when you run the site collection updates, you won't see that. But yeah, I get your point. Sorry, so where were we? So here's a whole bunch of projects, and one of the things that was there was a list of projects using Bakker-Part, so it doesn't display. So one of the reasons that it doesn't display is using a custom control to iterate through that, so that DLL wasn't found. So that's one. So you can still get to them because you can see all of these links on the side. So it's a project site collection with a whole bunch of subsites in there. Right? So these are the kind of cosmetic issues you encounter. Users can still use it, but you're going to have to fix those things and go through your project cycle and so forth. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is to show you the one that will just come across without any issues. I'll go into Manage Content DBs and remove this. So what I'm just doing is detaching that database from that web app so I can bring the other one across just to test how that one looks like, okay? So that's the new one, and it just ran, didn't even do anything, right? It was just as fast because there's no errors in it, right? Now I can safely run the mount command, and I should get it upgraded. Just to show you again, I'll run it again. No errors, right? That's going to start off. It's pretty fast because the database size is small. The other one that I upgraded was about 15 gig, so. All right, let's let it do its thing and I can carry on. What are we doing for time? So that's what I showed you previously. So the other one that I didn't show you was the site collection health checks. So this is once you upgraded, once you browse to your URL, if you go to the _layout site health check.spx page, you can run a check against the upgraded ones to see what the issues are, right? So I'll run that against the one that's got no issues. So it's still 30%. So it kind of gives you this information page that will tell you what's actually wrong with those with that upgraded database. So it's a bit more visual and kind of gives you a little bit more information about what you can do to fix those issues. So it's quite helpful. It even tells you these are the things that you don't need to do anything about. Pretty good. You're going to talk about this stuff, Ari, right? Yeah. So I'm just going to skip that. And here's so if I were to force all the sites to be upgraded, this is the PowerShell command that I can run to make sure that all my site collections get updated to the new UI, right? And that means that you're enabling all the features of 2013 as well. So the key thing to remember is that when you upgrade, if you don't do the site collection upgrade, users are not able to use the 2013 features. They can still only use the 2010 features. Right? And you can also get the upgrade session of what's going and what's failed and all the rest of it. Switch to demo, it says. Oh yeah, it's complete. There you go. No errors. It's done it, 100%. And there's 2 sites in there, so let's go and have a look at it. Oh, I need to do one thing. Change site collection. So you can see that actually connected and says access is denied on the second tab. Now, if we go back to site, that should all work. Let's try it again. While it's spinning its wheel, let's go back to show you the site collection stuff. It's going to take a while. So what's the story with the My Sites? So with My Sites, it's pretty kind of the same, bit different. Obviously, the first thing you need to do is upgrade the user profile service app. I'll talk about the service application upgrades in the second part. And then you upgrade the My Site host first. So essentially, you need to find out which content database uses is the first content database that you created when you created the My Site host. Upgrade that first, and then each site collections can be upgraded individually after that upgrade. And the user themselves can run the upgrade as required. And obviously, if you've done customizations to the My Site, you need to have to deploy all of your assemblies and WSP files and all the rest of it as well, right? So the stages of that is pretty straightforward. Before it's not upgraded, host upgraded, but the site collection is not upgraded. Some sites are upgraded, some aren't, and then all of them are upgraded. So there's a really good technical article around that, and obviously upgrading, pardon me, the user profile service application is kind of straightforward, but not straightforward if you know how to do the UPA. And I'm pretty sure Spencer's got a session and guidance on how to do that, rather than me telling you how to do that. So yeah, there's enough information around how to do that as well. So yeah. Cool, let's go and have a look at what's happened over here. Cool, so that's essentially the one that didn't have any customizations at all. So it's just come across, no drama. It looks still like 2010 though. So we want to be able to switch it to 2013 mode. So go to site collection health check. So I can go here. So this is the page I talked about. So I can start the checks. So it's going to go and say there's a few issues, but you're good to go, right? So one of the things that it says with the conflicting content types video. So if you created a content type called video, it's going to conflict with one of the default ones that come out of the box in 2013 now. So just need to kind of fix that, but the rest of the stuff is pretty good to go. And I can go and say visual upgrade. Oh, no, sorry. Site collection upgrade, and click upgrade this site collection. I'm ready. What it does is it starts off a bunch of timer jobs in the background and goes through each of the site collections and upgrades them. And it'll update every minute to say what's been done in the background. So you can go back to that page and have a look. It's doing something. Trust me. Okay. So like I said, the key message is around the planning. Like I showed, the doing of it is not that difficult. Getting the content databases upgraded, it's just going through, fixing issues, rinsing, repeating, and going through those scenarios and making sure you get enough feedback early on from your business users and so forth. I know you have a good communications plan on what's happening, especially when you've got like large number of site collections, you're going to need to be able to plan for that. And what I also recommend is that when you do your test upgrades, if your hardware is not equivalent to what you're going to have in production, have a stopwatch and time how long it takes for the database to upgrade, because you need to schedule your downtimes and all the rest of it based on that. And it varies from situation to situation, so just make sure that you kind of get that information right up front, and then you can plan it out accordingly. Yeah. Cool. So we got a few more minutes. We can go to questions.